Good morning. I'm Emanuele Tesserolo, president of Cinque Vie of Milan, the association which organizes these meetings. Today, we want to give our welcome to the Hong Kong Baptist University Academy of Visual Arts. A big thank goes also to Stefano Fossati, the director of Istituto Italiano di Cultura di Hong Kong, who really wanted this Design Made in Hong Kong webinars. You can follow us on our site, designmadeinhongkong.com, or on our Instagram and Facebook. It's now time for me to introduce to you our curator, Mrs. Annalisa.
Hi everybody. Thank you, Emanuele, for the nice introduction, and thank you to all of you for being here for us. I'm super thrilled today because I'm introducing the second webinar by Sara Ricciardi. And today is a special feature because she will present us her inspiration, and I'm sure that I already have a small overview, and this is truly inspiration from different point of view. Of course, we will have some maestro from the Italian design history, but at the same time, we will have an overview on the international inspiration from the peculiar point of view of Sara as an Italian designer. So I hope you will enjoy the lesson, and we will speak at the end of the time of lesson by Sara, and please feel free to ask any question. Thank you, and ciao, Sara. Welcome.
Ciao. Hi, everybody. I'm always really thankful and happy to be here. Thank all of you guys, Annalisa, Cinque Vie, and I'm very happy to share my thoughts today with all of you from Hong Kong, guys. Even if I can't see you, I still feel your energy. So I'm gonna actually show you, we're gonna have a little trip this morning together. So I'm already sharing, isn't it? Yes. So, here we go. Modalità. So, guys, I would love to talk about design, but also about the identity, the inspiration behind the context, no, that suggests to designers some shapes. My inspiration when I started to study design, who I found on my path, no, I started to study in Italy, in Milan, in the new Academy of Art. I was studying product design, and now we are going to travel around a little bit my inspirations from Italy and also all around, you know. We need some glitches, we need some errors, we need connections, and, you know, traveling without so many grids. So the first meeting, the important one for me, was with Bruno Munari. He was an artist, he was a designer, a writer. He was very curious and he was enjoying a lot, you know. He was playing with the nature, he was playing with objects. He was actually very happy to be a child all the time, you know. He was always wearing childish eyes. He was investigating our movements, you know, like he was writing a dictionary of our gestures, you know. In Italy, we took a lot with the hands and with our body, and he was very interested in understanding how we move, because if you understand that, you can also define much better objects. And he was very interested in pedagogy, like in teaching and in graphic for kids and for old people, because everyone has an inner kid inside. This is, if you explore gestures and languages in our hands, like mudra from India, you can also explore different ways of, for example, in this way, sitting on a sofa, no? How can you explore a shape and how can you move and investigate, a shape in front of you is not just a shape. It's always asking from us to investigate new postures. And he was writing books about fantasy, he was decoding our faces lines, and he was actually saying how we can explore our fantasy, and how can we push our fantasy always out of the box. For example, he was making also many objects. This is a lamp from Danese, and look here, these are fishing webs. So he was taking inspiration by these circular lines and these nets on it, and he was creating with nylon, that was this material, to create this kind of lamp, and the lights was going all around the textile. And then he was for example, in the 80s, he was the house was changing, and he decided to create, a word for the kid, a place, borrowing the language from the industrial field. He was creating a abitacolo, like the house in the house, in which the kid can explore and build up his own room. Or, for example, Mangiarotti, he was, for me, was very interesting, this master, because I find his way of drawing very, very, very sensual and erotic. For example, this is Lesbo lamp, and it suggests, like a mouth. This was a glass lamp for Artemide, or this system in which, every little piece of glass comes to join to each other and to create a chandelier. Or Eccentrico, he was very, very inspired by simple shape, but pushing, some characteristics, such as Eccentrico table. The gravity, the tension is very visible, and there is just one joint, and everything works thanks to the weight of the marble. He was always experimenting with the joint of pieces of marble together, with no glue, no screws. And Eros table, Eros for us is the name of the god of love, and this is super lovely, because the point is that two pieces that they enter each other and they find the perfect balance to stand up, and for me, it's a very beautiful design. But also, it's very interesting all the times to see how people take inspirations, from so you see that kind of joints. And Vonnegut Kraft, this Brooklyn couple in 2016, created this kind of wood join, that is always very erotic. Look at it. It seems like our knee, that goes into our rotula, that goes into each other, and it stick together with no screws. It's always the same mechanism. And then we go to another in my opinion, super sensual architect from from the early he was born in 1903. And Carlo Mullino is an amazing architect, aviator. He passed two wars as well, and he was very inspired by classical beauty. He was very inspired by women's shape, like by our body. Can you see his drawing? They seems bones. They seems our bones. He was fascinated by arms, knees, and noses, and belly. Look at this. This seems our coccyx. It's the low part of our bellies, the bone we have on the back, and so it's very interesting. Look, this seems like a tongue that comes out, and he was very inspired. Our column, look at this, and he was creating all these organic but structural shapes using a new technique for that time. It was matching. Can you see this shape? How can you have this shape? It's not a piece of wood that you cut, but it's an amazing technique in which you actually press together many super thin layers of wood. And with steam, you actually can produce this kind of, with a mold as well, you can produce this kind of lines. So it was super an innovative technique. And he was writing this amazing thing. Our ancient ancestor knew the essence of mortal excellence full well, and myth is nothing new as a means to better understand the moral of reality. The role of art is of a similar nature. And for me, it's very important, this sentence, because it connects us. It connects us with the importance of draw connected with something holy. He was also creating interiors, so from objects to interiors, because it was Miss van der Rohe was saying, from the spoon to the city. When you have a methodology, when you have your own approach, you can actually start from making a project of a spoon and passing by interiors, exhibitions, and cities and urbanistic projects. And these were his interiors. He was very fascinated by classic, by bodies. Can you see the body always come back, and the nature always come back all the time? And this is an amazing, I love this theater in Turin. He made this project in 1973, Teatro Reggio. Can you see how lights define this space? It seems like a plant, like a flowers, the glistening flowers that comes from the sky. You can see the theater here, how he used the colors and the lights and the rhythm. The rhythm is very important in a space. Emptiness, fullness. And the gate is another masterpiece. Everything is designed as a masterpiece, from the screw to the gate, to the stage, to the backstage, to the lights, to the ceiling. Look at this. And many people were inspired by this. It's always very interesting to see this is a US designer in which he's designing with that kind of natural shape inspired by. And for example, I want to bring you now to another contemporary, for example, contemporary for Carlo Mollino, Isamu Noguchi. He's from that I was completely shocked by his research about shapes, and I loved how he was fusing together his two souls. He grew up in US because he was born in US, but his parents were from Japan, and he was always connecting these two souls, investigating, how can I work on the beauty? Look how erotical is that, and also sharp. You can be sharp, you can be smooth. The important point is where your identity and research brings you. He was drawing a lot on these kind of squares notebooks with draw it with squares and understanding proportion. Also, he was very inspired by nature and human body, and he was understanding how to develop his system. And he was also very inspired by, for example, the ancient technique in Japan of building lanterns, and he was creating incredible researches around it. So the point is, your heritage, your legacy, and how you develop it. And this goes, I do love always to talk about scales, because you can be in a super small scale as an object, you can be in a large scale, such as a playground, such as a garden. This is a playground, this is a garden in New York, and this is a pavilion in which this was the stair. And then we move completely, we go to Netherlands, and we find out another designer that worked with the same fascination, but bringing his own identity into it. That is Aldo Bacher. He was born in 1971, so he's bringing on an incredible research. And where he goes, sharp and smooth. He's investigating, but what is very interested in understanding proportion, enlarging, extruding, taking care of dimensions. But why? To suggest different postures, different shapes. How can I pour my oil into my into my soup? Look at this. How do you hold this shape in order? Can you see? Bam! It seems like an insect, It seems like a very sensual snail, and he's investigating how I can express my body differently. Look at how do I hold this water bottle. How do I investigate different handles, different way of, sitting, staying, moving? Very interesting. So completely different backgrounds, completely ages, and different time, but at the same time an incredible deep research. And this is the beauty. Or Joe Ponti, when I met him, also I fell in love, also because he's also an architect, an Italian architect, And what I loved from him, he was concentrated from this. This is a table, a desk, was concentrated in details, in the rhythm you have on objects, on the materials, and at the same time he was taking care so well about object, but spaces were the same. The rhythm of the line on the carpet, how you fix it with the rhythm of the desk. And this is very important. Can you see the line here that fits perfectly with the line of the back of your chair? So this is a matter of alignments, is a matter of math, of beauty, of symmetry. This is a church he made in the south of Italy, in which God, you can find God behind the windows, because you can see the sky, and God is nature. And he was also designing tiles, and the movement of tiles inspired by the south of Italy ceramic tiles. He was designing bowls. And can you see this? Look at this audio. Look at this connection between this interior that he made. Look always at the rhythm. You look always at the decorativism, but also the functional parts. And here you can see that he researched a lot also about the bolts. He do loves also decorativism, because it's a part of how you want to express something. Decorativism is also functional because it tells a story. And this, for example, look, before you saw Isamu Noguchi, but he's more straight. Look at these, the legs of these tables. The top becomes in glass, because you want to see the organ, like the shape behind. And look, we go into our bathroom and our toilet becomes a sculpture finally. So we do want to find a study behind every object we have around you, because objects teach us a story. Here he was inspired by natures and leaves. Our sink. Franco Albini. Let's go to another incredible architect that I met on my path, and I fell in love immediately with this radio, Securit. Look at the age, 1938. So till that moment, all the radios didn't want to show the mechanism. They were, like cubes that you couldn't actually look at inside. But it was a moment in which people were inspired by technology. Many changes were coming, and this guy said, I want to see inside. I want to see the mechanism, because technology is beauty, and I want to see the electric thread. I want to see the speaker. And so he made this object that is functional, but is also a manifesto. Is also saying something, And this is also when I saw it, and I looked at the name of this bookshelf that is called Veliero. It's Veliero in Italian is sailing ship, is this boat. And look the tension. Look, this is wood and brass and, threads, metallic threads, in which everything is together thanks to the principle of tension, exactly like in this sailing ship. And this, for me, it's such a beauty. We take inspiration and we take suggestions from what we have around us, and we transform it in our language. Or Marco Zanuso, that was changing the telephone and making it was the first step into the path of having our mobile phone. But before we had just our telephone was just fixed on a wall, and this one actually you were able to move it and to move a little bit around because you were holding it on your ear, no? Or this cube radio that is in 62, that you were bringing it all around the house. Or Vico Magistretti. Vico Magistretti was always interesting me because he was very, very strong. He was teaching at Politecnico in Milan, and he was saying a very interesting sentence. I do love that when I ask from students to make a project about a lamp, let's say, or about a glass, they have to bring to me just one choice. Why? They will have many choices, but they have to start to be able to choose. They have to make a great brainstorming. They need to investigate many different streets and processes, but then at the end they have to come to me with what they think is the most important thing to say for them, because they investigated a lot. And this is a sentence that always that pushed me somewhere, because now I'm working. When I was a student, I was giving many ideas, but now that I'm working, it's very interesting because I process a lot my projects in my studio, and then I choose one. It's just that when I go to my client, I don't have thousands of drawings, because I present all the time with my drawings. I go with one idea and I say, I studied it so much, it has to be this one. And sometimes goes very well, sometimes not, but it's interesting. You take your risk and you take your identity with you. So Vico Magistretti, these are two winning prizes. This is Eclipse lamp. Eclipse, it's that movement when the moon covered the sun and it becomes dark. So it was the period in which we had plastic coming into the market, and with a simple movement, look at this moon that comes to the light, and you can close it and modulate your light, and you can open it and have a bright light that comes. So simple, are just three parts. One, the mechanism behind it. Two, the inner part with a hole. And three, that's it, with a pivot center here inside. And it rotates very, it's one of the most sold pieces, Italian pieces. And it's at the moment Design Center in New York. And this is, for example, also a Tollo lamp. Look at these lines. Oh dear. How it works very well with this, triangle here. And the light, is pushed into this circular shape. And it's always, with plastic that it's transparent and gives to us shape. But then let's go to talk about also another great designer, and let's say also artist, because for me an artist is who is pushing a lot his own research and his own storytelling, no matter if you are a bread maker, a designer, an architect, a fashion designer, I don't know, whatever. You can be an an artist when you do things very, very, very well with your own soul inside. Alessandro Mendini e Alessandro Guerriero, he was also my teacher, an amazing man, always. He's now 85 years old, and he dreams much more than me because he's a super incredible. Alessandro unfortunately died 1 year ago, and they were actually coming with this alchemia into the market. Alessandro was also the director also of Dom. They were actually 2 magazines. They were trying to say something different in the 80s. They were trying to put attentions of something about banal objects, you know. For example, Alessandro Mendini is really well known about Proust, this kind of chair that comes from Baroque shapes. If you see these shapes, immediately people recognize these shapes from an old wood chair that comes from Renaissance, from Baroque era. And then he was creating a paradox, you know. Alchemia wanted to create paradoxes. He wanted to push the brain of people to be ironical, and he was taking the technique of mosaic. Let's say, look at this. But this is textile, and Georges Seurat pointillism. Georges Seurat is an amazing neo-impressionist painter that invented the way of painting with the points, you know, points of color, and so he was inspired by it, and he created this kind of chair that is a commission of many different things. So your brain has a glitch, has an error, you know. It has a mistakes. It comes a mistakes in the brain. So alchemia was, you know, suggesting absurd. It was suggesting bizarres. It was suggesting banal objects in order to feel a freedom to go in many to explore, you know, without so many grades. And then we have also another, you know, movement that was very interesting also because, you know, surfing on this idea of creating a collapse between traditions and between traditions and the new, you know, the new aesthetic. We always have something that is crashing with what we have before, what we have done before. So there was this group of architects driven by Ettore Sozzas, and here you can see them. It was a group, you know, they were sharing talks together, they were investigating together the society they were living in. And for example, Masanori Umeda made this ring in 1981, and look at this. It's a ring that comes from, you know, the Western way of conceiving the box, with this elastic, line, but also look, this tatami configuration, in which all of them are inside, but it's a cultural ring, you know. It's to push and to fight with your ideas, not with your bodies. And imagine we were coming from, these are our grandma living rooms, okay? and Grandma, we love you. All the Italians, can actually say that, the old style was something like this, with the sofa made out of wood and the carpet with this kind of, pattern, and the velvet over there. And this is a bit our the tradition that we were having. And then they arrive and they say, no, now we give to you a total look that is colorful, that is, we want to push this that tradition out of our standards. So, ping pong, ping pong. And so we have this, Casablanca bookshelf from Ettore Sozza. Look at these fights. And these kind of objects, Carlot bookshelf, always from Sozzas, with always these new materials coming into market. This is a wood, MDF wood with laminate, and the interiors come changes completely, colors comes into our interiors. Everything is much more dynamic, cut and push and extrude. And Ettore Sozzas was, the leader of this movement. He was absolutely drawing for incredible brands such as Olivetti. Look, this is the first. Look at this portable. Can you see the bag? Because society was changing, Society was changing a lot, and we were starting to move much more. So you needed something that you were able to bring out with you. So this is Valentine typewriter with this bright, seducing red. Or Tahiti lamp, from Memphis. And look these experiments he was making with glass, and put it together, and let me see transparencies together. Let me go crazy. Let me experiment with shapes. He was also very inspired by totem, or anthropomorphic shape. Here you can see eyes and nose, and here you can see a totem, like a Native American's totem. And here he was experimenting with ceramic. And there are many artists that were inspired by Memphis, approach, such as Camille Walala, a London-based studio, was very inspired. And nowadays she's bringing this research in her own words. She's making facade of buildings. So she's creating installation. She's creating the new languages of, streets lines. And she's creating, she's extending in her own way their language. It's always very interesting, the contaminations all around the world, how all the researches contaminates many other people. Very, very beautiful for me. Nathalie Dupasquet is always an artist. She was a great, always from Memphis period. She goes on with her research, because she was painting a lot. She was creating all the time this kind of paintings. And for example, this is the collection of ceramic tile for Mutina, and she creates carpets, she creates ceramics with her own style. Michele De Lucchi was also inside this group. And for example, in Italy we have an amazing amazing. We need, I must have every morning with me this kind of object. We call it mocha, to make our coffee. Coffee in Italy is very important. Every morning we have to do it. And, he, in the evolution from the Napolitan mocha, he was, making a section of it and creating this new shape, Pulcina, in 2015. I do want to, this year, actually, few weeks ago, we lost him, Enzo Mari. He was a very incredible designer, a master. He was very, very a difficult person, guys. He was always yelling, always screaming, but because he was very involved, design for him was not just design, was an activism, was a political issue, a political issue. So this was, he was very interested, also him, about shapes. For him, shapes are you have to investigate shapes, and this was a sugar or cheese sugar holder. Look how can you slip inside this detail your finger. This is, for example, the box chair for Memphis. And this is for production products. He's very famous for this kind of approach, because he was creating books, can you say it here, in which he was explaining to people how to be designers by themselves, because he was very he had a communist system inside his brain, that design is for all. Design needs to be something that everyone can handle. So he was actually creating instructions to make your own design. He was just suggesting to you, these first steps to how to create your shape. And then you create it by yourself, and then also investigate also much more. These are 16 animals, a game he created for Danese, in which he was synthesizing the shapes of animals. Ugo La Pietra, he's also he makes me smile a lot. He was going all around the city, and he was saying, we have to leave our urban system. Our house is not just what we have inside our flats, our own walls. All the city is for us. All the city needs to be our own flat, our own house. So he was investigating a lot how to create shapes for the urban, for to investigate new kind of sitting postures. And also he's always very interested in working with artisans. For example, here you can see Bucchero Nero. Bucchero Nero is an ancient technique that comes from Etruschi, an old population that we had in Italy. And it's a ceramic way. It's a ceramic that you fire a lot, and it comes black thanks to the ashes, thanks to the fire, to the kind of firing system. And this is very similar to the Mexican black ceramic that they have in Oaxaca. So it's always very interesting how all around the world we have similarities, and everyone is exploring in his own way. This is a collection of ceramic that he made for a company called the Ceramiche Rometti in the center of Italy. Gaetano Pesce, for example, is another one, a sculptor, a designer, an architect. That was, look at this feminine shape that is in polystyrene, and this it actually it comes collapsed in a little cube, and when you open it, it expands. This was an experiment about new materials, and then he was creating modular shapes for casino like Sunset in New York, Feltri chair, or he was very I told you that it was the moment for them to experiment with resins, plastics that were very common on the market, and inspired by the jellyfishes, he was creating these weird animals, these vases. Joe Colombo, another one that I love. He was totally impressed by our moment in 69. You remember that on our televisions we had many images of Louis Armstrong going from US to the moon, and we had a movie called Odyssey in the Space, in which we had these kind of interiors. So he was totally inspired about space, about the conquer system of the space, of the galaxy, and he was creating this kind of interiors. Visiona, or Elda chair, or tube chair, flex form, or a mini kitchen in which you have a cube that you can move all around with electrical system. You can bring all around your house. Achille Castiglioni, another one that it's playful. It's a very playful architect in which he made ready-mades such as this Mezzadro for Zanotta, or this arch lamp that investigate a lot the shapes and look at the tensions of the metal that goes to this lamp. This was for giving light to tables with many people all around, and so you can move it instead of having a hanging lamp system, or parenthesis lamp that it can slip on this thread. And then I want to say to you something about ceramic, about traditions, because we have many traditions like ceramic of De Ruta. This is our old, aesthetic, a very beautiful one, always flourishing, always with this kind of very fat composition, lots of patterns and love stories and flourishing time with lemons and flowers. This is Caltagirone from the south of Italy, and then you can start to see how all our artisans nowadays, of course, take inspirations from the tradition, but they bring it into other languages and aesthetics, such as Bottega Vignoli, that creates this kind of pattern and this kind of colors that are very, very opaque. Ceramiche Rometti with Ugo La Pietra that try to investigate new systems for the black ceramic, or Chantal Thomas that works for Ceramiche Rometti, and she comes from the lingerie field. She's a fashion designer, and she brings her aesthetic into it. Or Ceramica Gatti, that is another famous brand, and with Andrea Anastasio, that is a great Italian artist and philosopher. Starting from this tradition, they start to, they use ceramics and ropes in order to, recreate this flourishing handle. Or Massimo Gardone, they take inspiration from this old technique, from we call it colombino with the pushing part of the fingers, and he creates these amazing shapes. Officine Saffi is another center in Milan, is a very beautiful one, and every year they create a contest that I do suggest you to go to see. It's a very beautiful space in Milan for research, ceramic research. And for example, they ask artists to make experiments with ceramic. Here you can see copy and plastiche chopstick with Paolo Gonzato that was playing with the technique of ceramic, such as of impressing different kind of materials, or such as hurting the material with chopstick or copying something. Or Loredana Longo, that is creating these kind of vases that are called flag victory, in which what she experiments, these are frames that I took from a video. This is creativity execution, in which she has her own ways of firing, and making ceramic collapse. Or Elisa Ossino, that without molds, she creates this suspended environment. Look at this. These are kind of primitive shapes that reminds us of something primitive. Or Bosa, that is another Italian brand that work with cast, with molds. So a different kind of technique, completely the opposite of this one that is made by hand. This actually is a mold, and this is Elena Salmistraro. This is a friend, and she's a very lovely person, and she has her own word in which she loves texture. She loves the tactile feelings. She's Elena. She creates. She loves to draw, so these are her own drawings. I do love when everyone creates his own drawings at the beginning to define the story, the brainstorming. And so she was very inspired about primates by monkeys. And she created these kind of vases, for Bosa Ceramica, that are absolutely very, very beautiful, with different kinds of glazes. And look at this. Traditions and new. This is armadillo vase. And look at Egyptian. With armadillo vase, it was for the ashes of dead people. It was a very, very important, and this is thousands years ago, and she's proposing this now. So how can we take care of our tradition? And she's also making tiles, always with her style. Jaime Ion, that is always working for Bosa, that is our Italian ceramic brand that creates his own decorative work. Or experiments from absolutely different kinds of people that work with ceramic, who is pushing pieces together, who is taking care about shapes, who is very inspired by the fact of people, who is very geometric, who loves casting, who loves to work around organic, and who loves geometric, addition studio that works on brutalism architecture that comes into little pieces that are vases, or Matthew Roney experimenting about handles. Or this kind, look at Anna Carlin furniture, very also inspired by the Memphis language, or people that are very inspired by, extruding extending the shape, understanding the glazes, making a research about the colors, in which someone, for example, like Nancy Salvador, wants to show the material approach. Takuro Kuwata, that works about this kind of, drops. He's absolutely inside this drop system and these tears on the ceramic. Or Jessie Condiff with Memory Studio that works about memory, and she pushed and she crashed into concrete and ceramic, all these elements that she finds all around, from stones to shells to plastic shapes. Or Liselott Watkins that investigate a lot about colors. And so on and so on and so on, because everyone is researching about, ceramic is always a language to investigate something and to communicate something. And so now, guys, I would love to leave you with some questions. Could you create your own storytelling? Which kind of shape are you? Express yourselves in your objects and jump out your roots. And many thanks, and enjoy always the process.
Thank you, Sara, and thank you, everybody. As I said before, it has been very inspiring. I truly loved when you said that decorativism has a function because it tells a story, and I completely agree. So thank you, everybody, for being here. If we don't have any question, I ask to wait for us for the next meeting. We will have direct contact the next time, so I'm super excited because this will be an exciting experience for going ahead, building the bridge of this communication between Hong Kong and Milano. Thank you, everybody, and see you very soon. Have a lovely day. Thank you, Sara. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.